purpose. Their natural ability to remain calm and see all sides of a problem made them excellent mediators and counselors. Instead of just administering an unchanging system, they helped other species work through conflicts and find solutions. As Jennifer Clark prepared to end her speech to the Galactic Council, she looked out at faces that represented hundreds of worlds and thousands of different ways of life. 5 years ago, most of these beings had never been allowed in the same room. Together, now they were partners in building something unprecedented, a truly cooperative galactic civilization. "We have learned that there is no single formula for success," Jennifer concluded. "The harsh worlds teach us strength and adaptability. The gentle worlds teach us wisdom and patience. The dangerous worlds teach us courage and innovation. We need all these lessons from all these places to face the challenges ahead." After the session ended, Jennifer walked to her office, overlooking the main plaza of the station. Through the transparent walls, she could see beings from dozens of species working, playing, and living together in harmony. Children from different worlds attended the same schools. Scientists from opposite ends of the galaxy collaborated on research projects. Artists combined traditions from multiple cultures to create new forms of beauty. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Jennifer activated her communication panel and saw the face of Captain Jake Morrison, the human who had made first contact with the Zephyrians so many years ago. "Jennifer, you need to see this," Jake said, his voice filled with excitement. "Our long-range scouts have detected something amazing beyond the galactic rim. There are signals from other galaxies. We are not alone out here." Jennifer felt a familiar thrill of anticipation. The galaxy had just finished learning to work together, and now they might face an even greater challenge. But unlike the old empire, which would have met such news with fear and attempts to control the situation, the new galactic community would approach it with curiosity and hope. "Assemble a joint expedition," Jennifer ordered. "Include representatives from every major species group. If we are going to meet other galactic civilizations, we should do it together." As Jake signed off to begin preparations, Jennifer looked out at the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there were other galaxies, other civilizations, and other challenges that would test everything they had learned. But she was not afraid. The galaxy had discovered something more powerful than any weapon or technology. The strength that came from different beings working together, each contributing their unique gifts to the common good. The humans had started it all by showing that a species from the worst possible world could achieve the greatest possible things. But the real victory belonged to everyone who had learned that diversity was not a problem to be managed, but a resource to be celebrated. The old galaxy had been ruled by fear of difference and change. The new galaxy was powered by embracing both. And as they prepared to venture beyond their own stellar neighborhood, they carried with them the most important lesson of all, that the greatest adventures and achievements came not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them together. The species that had once ruled through fear of the unknown was gone. In its place stood a community of worlds ready to explore whatever wonders and dangers the universe might hold. They had been forged by their own struggles into something stronger than any empire, a true civilization built on cooperation, respect, and the shared understanding that every world, no matter how harsh or gentle, had something valuable to contribute. The age of human arrival was ending. The age of galactic partnership was just beginning. You can do what hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, asteroid impacts, and every predator on the planet could not do. The fight was brutal but brief. Kethver had the best training, the finest equipment, and the physical advantages of genetic modification. But Kevin had something the Zephyrian admiral could never understand. He had been forged by a world that showed no mercy to the weak. As Kethvar fell, he finally understood the truth. His empire had not failed, because the humans were better warriors or smarter scientists. It had failed because his people had grown soft through millennia of safety, while the humans had grown strong through constant adversity. We made ourselves weak, Kethver whispered as Kevin knelt beside him. We thought safety would make us strong, but it made us fragile. Your people ... your terrible world. It made you unbreakable. Kevin looked at the dying admiral with something that might have been pity. Earth did not make us strong because it was cruel. It made us strong because we learned to help each other survive. That is something your empire never understood. As the Zephyrian fleet retreated in defeat, the galaxy faced a new reality. The old empire was finished, its fleets scattered, and its authority broken. But what would replace it? The answer would come from the species that had learned that true strength came not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them together. 5 years after the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, Dr. Jennifer Clark stood in the great assembly hall of New Geneva Station. The massive space station had been built where the old Zephyrian capital used to be, but it looked very different from the cold, perfect structures of the past. This new station was alive with activity. Species from every corner of the galaxy worked together in ways that would have been impossible under the old system. Tauran weather controllers helped Piran engineers design better volcanic energy systems. Critic strategists worked with human tacticians to solve complex problems. Even former Zephyrians contributed their knowledge, working as equals instead of rulers. Jennifer, who had been elected as the first president of the new Galactic Council, looked out at the assembled delegates. She was a calm woman with gray hair and wise eyes, who had spent her career studying how different cultures could work together. Today marks 5 years since we began building a new kind of galaxy, Jennifer said to the crowd. A galaxy where species are valued for what they contribute, not for how safe their homeworld was. In the audience, many familiar faces smiled back at her. Tom Bradley, who now led the Galactic Engineering Corps, had helped design stations that could survive in the harshest environments. Dr. Amy Chun had revolutionized medicine by combining techniques from dozens of different worlds. Ben Turner had established repair and maintenance standards that kept technology working even in extreme conditions. But perhaps the most important changes were harder to see. The galaxy was no longer divided into rigid castes based on homeworld danger ratings. Instead, species worked together based on their skills, interests, and dreams. Admiral Kethver, who had survived his injuries from the final battle, sat in a special advisory seat. The former Zephyrian leader had been given a choice: exile or service as a historical consultant. He had chosen service, helping the new government understand how the old empire had worked so they could avoid making the same mistakes. I was wrong about everything, Kethver had told Jennifer when she first offered him the position. My people thought that avoiding danger would make us strong, but it only made us afraid. When we finally faced real adversity, we broke like glass. Now, Kethvar spent his time documenting the Empire's history and teaching young people about the dangers of believing that safety and comfort were the same thing as strength and wisdom. The changes in galactic society went far beyond politics and government. Worlds that had been considered too dangerous for colonization became centers of research and industry. Scientists discovered that extreme environments often produced the most interesting discoveries and innovations. The ocean world of Tempest, with its permanent hurricanes, became a center for energy research. The Tauran had learned to harness storm power in ways that provided clean energy to entire star systems. What the old empire had seen as a dangerous inconvenience, the new galaxy saw as a valuable resource. The volcanic world of Forge, home to the Piran people, became famous for materials science. The extreme heat and pressure that had made it a death world in Zephyrian classification turned out to be perfect for creating new types of metal and crystal that were stronger and lighter than anything previously known. Even Earth, the world that had started it all, had become a destination rather than a place to avoid. Young beings from across the galaxy came to study at human universities, learning not just human knowledge, but human attitudes about facing challenges and overcoming obstacles. Captain Lisa Park, now an admiral in the new Galactic Defense Force, led training programs that taught officers from every species how to work together effectively. The old empire had kept species separate, believing that different types of beings could not cooperate. The new galaxy proved that diversity was actually a source of strength. "Look at what we have accomplished," Lisa said during a recent training graduation ceremony. Zephyrian precision combined with human adaptability. Skarn strength guided by harmony wisdom. Kretic strategy enhanced by Tauran intuition. We are not trying to make everyone the same. We are learning to make everyone better. But the new galaxy faced challenges too. Not all species had been happy about the changes. Some of the worlds that had been at the top of the old hierarchy felt they had lost status and privilege. A few extremist groups still believed that the Zephyrian way had been better. Colonel Sam Peterson, now head of Galactic Security, worked carefully to address these concerns without falling back into the old patterns of oppression. "We cannot force species to accept change," he explained to his officers. "But we can show them that the new way works better for everyone, including them." The proof came in measurable results. Galactic productivity had increased by 300%, as species that had been restricted to limited roles were allowed to contribute their full talents. Scientific advancement had accelerated dramatically, as knowledge from harsh worlds was combined with resources from more comfortable planets. Most importantly, conflicts between species had almost disappeared. When beings worked together toward common goals instead of competing for position in a rigid hierarchy, they found reasons to cooperate rather than fight. Dr. Paul Green, now director of the Galactic Science Institute, had made discoveries that amazed even him. When we combine the survival techniques developed on dangerous worlds with the theoretical knowledge from safer planets, we achieve breakthroughs that neither could manage alone, he reported to the council. His latest project involved studying how life had developed differently on various types of worlds. The research was leading to new understanding about evolution, adaptation, and the incredible diversity of ways that intelligence could develop. The old empire thought there was one right way to live, Paul explained. But life finds millions of ways to succeed. Each world teaches different lessons, and we need all those lessons to understand the universe. The transformation was not just political or scientific. It was cultural and personal too. Beings who had spent their whole lives believing they were inferior because of their origins were discovering talents and capabilities they never knew they had. Thokmer, the Skarn warrior who had been defeated by Dan Miller years before, now led integration programs that helped species adjust to their new roles in galactic society. "The humans taught us that losing a battle does not mean you are weak," he often said. "It means you have a chance to learn and become stronger." The Skarn had discovered that their combat skills translated well into emergency response and disaster relief. Instead of being used only for enforcement and intimidation, they became heroes who saved lives and protected communities during crisis. Even the Harmony people had found in. Admiral Kethver stood before the largest war fleet in galactic history. 10,000 ships filled the space around Pristine, their weapons charged and ready. The gleaming vessels represented the full military might of the Zephyrian Empire, gathered to crush what they called the human rebellion. "Today we restore order to the galaxy," Kethvar announced to his commanders. "These dangerous species have forgotten their place. We will remind them why the Zephyrians rule." The admiral truly believed he was saving civilization. In his mind, the humans and their allies were like a disease that would spread chaos throughout the peaceful galaxy. He could not understand that. What he saw as chaos, others saw as freedom. But the humans had not been idle during the months of preparation. Commander Joe Allen, a tactical expert with calm eyes and a strategic mind, had been working with species across the galaxy. Joe had studied every war in Earth's bloody history, and he knew that sometimes the smaller force could defeat the larger. 1. We cannot match their numbers or their technology, Joe explained to the coalition leaders gathered on the hidden asteroid base they had established. But we have something they do not have: experience with real adversity. The coalition was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Tauran weather controllers worked alongside Krennic's strategic minds. Piran engineers shared energy techniques with human innovators. The Skarn warriors trained with species that had never been allowed to fight before. Remember, Joe continued, the Zephyrians have never faced a real challenge. They have ruled through overwhelming force against divided, isolated species. But we are not divided, and we are not isolated. Dr. Paul Green, a human scientist with wild hair and excited eyes, had been working with alien allies to develop new weapons. But these were not weapons of destruction, like the Zephyrians used. They were weapons of disruption, designed to turn the enemy's own technology against them. The storm cannons are ready, Paul reported. By copying the Tauran weather control systems and combining them with human hurricane research, we can create artificial storm cells in space. Their perfect ships are not designed to handle chaotic conditions. And the seismic torpedoes? Asked Queen Ziktar of the Krennics, her compound eyes gleaming with anticipation. Even better, Paul grinned. We studied Earth's earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, then figured out how to create similar vibrations in space. Their large ships are built for stability. When we shake them up, their own size works against them. The first battle came sooner than expected. Captain Maria Santos was commanding a small fleet of civilian ships that had been converted into warships when a Zephyrian patrol discovered their position. Maria was a former cargo ship captain with quick reflexes and years of experience navigating Earth's dangerous space debris fields. Her fleet consisted of only 30 ships against 300 Zephyrian warships, but she was not worried. Remember the plan, Maria broadcast to her captains. We are not trying to destroy them. We are trying to confuse them. The Zephyrian commander, Admiral Zexter, expected an easy victory. His ships were bigger, faster, and had better weapons. But as the battle began, nothing went as he expected. Maria's ships did not fight in neat formations like civilized species were supposed to. Instead, they scattered in all directions, using tactics that seemed random and chaotic. Some ships pretended to run away, then circled back to attack from behind. Others hid in asteroid fields and ambushed passing enemies. What are they doing? Zexter demanded, as his perfectly organized fleet struggled to target the unpredictable humans and their allies. They are fighting like animals, his tactical officer replied in shock. But they were not fighting like animals. They were fighting like humans who had learned warfare on a world where the environment itself was an enemy. They used every trick that generations of Earth soldiers had developed: deception, misdirection, and using the terrain to their advantage. When the storm cannons activated, the Zephyrian fleet found itself caught in artificial hurricanes in space. Their sensors could not track enemies through the chaos, and their perfect formations became impossible to maintain. The seismic torpedoes struck the largest Zephyrian ships, causing massive vibrations that made the vessels shake apart from the awe. Inside, the proud dreadnoughts, built to impress and intimidate, could not handle the kind of stress that was routine on unstable worlds. Within hours, Admiral Zexter's fleet was in full retreat. They had lost over half their ships to an enemy force that should have been crushed easily. The victory was broadcast across the galaxy, inspiring rebellions on dozens of worlds. But the real turning point came when Lieutenant Susan Wright accomplished her secret mission. Susan was a small woman with sharp intelligence and steady nerves who had volunteered for the most dangerous job in the war. While the big battle was happening, Susan had infiltrated the Zephyrian genetic laboratories on Pristine. These labs held the Empire's greatest secret, something that Helen Ross had discovered in the archives but could not prove. Susan crept through the sterile corridors of the lab complex, avoiding guards and security systems using techniques learned from Earth's special forces. The Zephyrians, who had never faced real infiltration attempts, had not prepared for someone trained in environments where everything was trying to kill you. In the central laboratory, Susan found what she was looking for: the genetic modification chambers where the Zephyrians had been altering other species for thousands of years. "Incredible," Susan whispered as she recorded everything with hidden cameras. The equipment showed that the Zephyrians had been making other species weaker, more obedient, and less intelligent through careful genetic changes over many generations. Skarn, who thought they were naturally aggressive, had actually been modified to be more violent and less strategic. The Harmony people, who believed they were naturally peaceful, had been altered to be passive and unquestioning. Every species in the galaxy had been changed to fit the role the Zephyrians wanted them to play. But the most shocking discovery was in the final room. Susan found records showing that the Zephyrians themselves had been genetically modified. They had made themselves less able to handle stress, less adaptable to change, and more dependent on perfect conditions. In trying to create a perfect species, for ruling a perfect empire, they had made themselves weak. When Susan's recordings were broadcast across the galaxy, the effect was immediate and explosive. Species that had served the Empire loyally for thousands of years realized they had been living a lie. Their natural characteristics were artificial, imposed by their rulers to keep them controlled. Rebellions erupted on every world. The Skarn, warriors, furious at learning their aggression, had been artificially enhanced to make them better slaves, turned their weapons on their Zephyrian commanders. The Harmony people, discovering their pacifism had been forced upon them, began to fight. Back for the first time in millennia, Admiral Kethfor watched his empire crumble with growing desperation. "Prepare the final fleet," he ordered. "We attack the human homeworld directly. If we destroy Earth, we break their morale and end this rebellion." His advisors were horrified. "Sir, we have never attacked a civilian population center. It goes against all civilized warfare." "These are not civilized enemies," Kethfa replied coldly. "They come from a world of savages, and they have turned our own subjects into savages. We must end this before it spreads further." But Kethfa made a critical mistake. He assumed that Earth would be defended like other civilized worlds, with orbital stations and space-based fleets. He did not understand that a species from a death world would defend their home very differently. When the massive Zephyrian fleet arrived in the Sol system, they found something unprecedented: a defended death world. The humans had not tried to make Earth safe for space battle. Instead, they had turned Earth's natural dangers into weapons: artificial hurricanes, created by advanced weather control systems, disabled ship sensors across the inner system, volcanic ash, launched into space by massive orbital cannons, created clouds that hid defending ships and disrupted enemy targeting systems. The humans used Earth's own moon as a weapon, altering its orbit slightly to create gravitational anomalies that pulled Zephyrian ships off course. Solar collectors focused the sun's radiation into deadly beams that could slice through enemy hulls. But the final surprise came when Admiral Kethvar himself ordered a shuttle to lead a ground assault on Earth's surface. He wanted to plant the Zephyrian flag on the human capital and declare victory personally. Instead, he found himself facing Captain Kevin Roberts in single combat in the ruins of what had been New York City. Kevin was a Marine veteran with scars from a dozen Earth disasters and eyes that had seen things that would terrify most galactic species. "You think you can conquer Earth?" Kevin asked as he drew his weapon. "Earth has been trying to kill us for millions of years, and we are still here. What makes you thin?" Word about the humans spread across the galaxy faster than the Zephyrians could control it. On distant worlds, species that had been treated poorly for thousands of years began to ask questions. If humans from the worst possible world could be so capable, why were they considered the lowest class? Tom Bradley was working on Orbital Station 7 when everything changed. The massive space station provided power to 3 whole solar systems, but it had been damaged by a solar storm. The station's fusion core was failing, and if it exploded, millions of beings would die. The best engineers from across the galaxy had been working on the problem for weeks. The Harmony scientists said it was impossible to fix. The Zephyrian experts wanted to evacuate everyone and build a new station, which would take years. But Tom, a human engineer with rough hands and a practical mind, saw the problem differently. On Earth, power plants failed all the time due to earthquakes, hurricanes, and other disasters. Humans had learned to fix critical systems quickly because they had no choice. "The problem is not the core itself," Tom explained to the panicked engineers. "The magnetic containment field is unstable because of microfractures in the chamber walls. On Earth, we deal with this kind of structural damage after every major earthquake." Dr. Zenthala, the lead Harmony scientist, looked at Tom with disbelief. "Impossible. Our scans show the fractures are too small to detect and too numerous to repair." "You do not need to repair them," Tom said. "You need to reinforce the whole structure from the outside. We used this technique when the San Francisco reactor was damaged by the Great Quake of 2387. Working around the clock, Tom and his human team used techniques developed for disaster response on Earth. They wrapped the containment chamber in a flexible magnetic mesh that could bend with the microfractures instead of fighting them. Within 3 days, the station was not only working, but running better than it had in decades. News of this success reached every corner of the galaxy. The humans had saved millions of lives using methods that the galaxy's best minds had never considered. Species from harsh worlds began to wonder why their own knowledge and experience had been dismissed for so long. On the water world of Aquatica, the Tauran people heard the news with great interest. They had lived for millennia under constant storms that made the worst Earth hurricanes look like gentle breezes. The Tauran had developed amazing weather control technology, but the galactic government had classified it as too dangerous and forbidden its use. Elder Fluxara, an ancient Tauran with skin like shifting water, called a secret meeting. "These humans show us a new way," she said to her people. "They come from a dangerous world, but instead of being ashamed, they use their knowledge to help others. Perhaps it is time we did the same." Meanwhile, on the insect world of Hive Prime, the critics had similar thoughts. They were a species that looked like giant ants with multiple arms and compound eyes. Their world was locked in permanent warfare between different hives, which had made them incredible fighters and strategists. But the galaxy saw them only as violent insects good for manual labor. Queen Ziktar, leader of the largest hive, watched videos of human Dan Miller defeating the Skarn warrior. "See how the human fights," she clicked to her soldiers. "He uses intelligence, not just strength. He adapts and overcomes. This is how we fight on our world, but the galaxy calls us mindless. Perhaps these humans will understand our true value." Back on Pristine, Admiral Kethfor was receiving reports that made him very uncomfortable. Humans were not staying in their assigned jobs. They were forming groups with other species from dangerous worlds. They were sharing knowledge and techniques that challenged everything the Zephyrian Empire had taught Dr. Helen Ross, a human historian with sharp eyes and a curious mind, had been assigned to work in the Imperial Archives. It was supposed to be a simple job organizing old files, but Helen was finding things that shocked her. Deep in the archives, she discovered classified reports from thousands of years ago. The reports showed that many species from dangerous worlds had developed incredible technologies and knowledge. But instead of using these innovations to help the galaxy, the Zephyrian Empire had buried them. "Look at this," Helen whispered to her assistant, a young Zephyrian named Kixela, who had grown to respect the humans. The Tauren developed weather control systems that could stop hurricanes and prevent droughts. The Critics created military strategies that could end wars in days instead of years. The volcanic Pyrans discovered new forms of energy that could power entire star systems. Kixela read the files with growing amazement. But why were these innovations hidden? "Because they came from dangerous species," Helen said angrily. "Your government was so afraid of anything that came from harsh worlds that they threw away knowledge that could have helped everyone." Helen began copying the files secretly. She knew this information could change everything, but she had to be careful. If the Zephyrian authorities discovered what she was doing, they would stop her and probably punish all the humans. At the same time, Colonel Sam Peterson was facing a different kind of problem. Sam was a former military officer with gray hair and steady hands who had been put in charge of human security. He had noticed that Zephyrian guards were watching the humans more closely and asking suspicious questions. "They are getting nervous," Sam told Commander Lisa Park during a secret meeting. "I think they are planning to do something to stop us." Lisa nodded. Tom's success at the station has scared them. "We are proving that their whole system is wrong, and they do not like it." "What do we do if they try to arrest us or send us back to Earth?" asked Dr. Amy Chon. Sam smiled grimly. "Then we show them what humans learn from living on a world that was always trying to kill us. We adapt, we survive, and we protect our own." The colonel began quietly organizing the human community for defense. He taught other humans techniques he had learned from Earth's long history of conflict. But these were not just fighting techniques. They were survival methods. How to hide, how to communicate secretly, how to work together when everything seemed hopeless. Meanwhile, species from across the galaxy were starting to contact the humans in secret. The Tauren sent messages offering to share their weather technology. The Critics wanted to discuss military cooperation. Dozens of other species from harsh worlds were beginning to see the humans as leaders of a new movement. But the most important contact came from an unexpected source. Thokmer, the Skarn warrior, who had been defeated by Dan Miller, approached the humans with an offer. "My people have served the Zephyrians for 1,000 years, the big warrior said to Lisa Park. "We thought we were honored because we were strong fighters. But watching your Dan defeat me, I realize we were never truly respected. We were just tools to be used." "What are you suggesting?" Lisa asked. "The Skarn are tired of being treated like violent animals. We want to be partners, not servants. Your people understand what it means to fight for survival. Maybe together we can change things." This was the moment Lisa realized that something much bigger than first contact was happening. The humans had not just joined galactic society. They were accidentally starting a revolution. Species from dangerous worlds were uniting for the first time in galactic history. They were sharing knowledge, forming alliances, and challenging the system that had kept them down for thousands of years. And at the center of it all were the humans, who had brought something new to the galaxy. The idea that surviving hardship made you stronger, not weaker. Admiral Kethvar called an emergency meeting of the High Council. "The humans must be controlled," he said to the assembled Zephyrian leaders. "They are disrupting the natural order. Species are starting to question their assigned roles. Perhaps we should study their methods," suggested Counselor Melvara. a younger Zephyrian who had been impressed by human innovations. They have solved several problems that our best scientists could not handle. Their methods are chaotic and dangerous, Kethver replied. They come from a world of constant disaster. If we adopt their ways, we will bring that same chaos to our perfect civilization. But even as the Zephyrians debated, the revolution was spreading. On 100 worlds, species were remembering knowledge their ancestors had developed to survive harsh conditions. They were looking at their dangerous homeworlds, not as sources of shame, but as schools that had taught them valuable lessons. The humans had done more than join galactic society. They had shown everyone that there was a different way to think about strength, intelligence, and value. They had proven that sometimes the species from the worst worlds were actually the most capable. And now, for the first time in 3,000 years, the perfect order of the Zephyrian Empire was beginning to crack. The species that had ruled through fear of danger was about to face a coalition led by species that had been forged by danger itself. The galaxy would never be the same again. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance, as it approached the massive Zephyrian space station. He had dreamed of this moment his whole life. Humans were finally going to meet other intelligent species and join a galactic community. Jake was a tall man with brown hair and kind eyes. He had been chosen to lead this first contact mission because he was calm under pressure and good at talking to people. Behind him stood his crew of 12 humans, all excited and nervous about what they would find. The Zephyrian station was bigger than any city on Earth. It sparkled like a giant diamond in space, with thousands of lights showing we're different. Species lived and worked. Ships from dozens of worlds flew in and out like busy insects. "Captain, we are being contacted by the station," said Lisa Park, his communications officer. She was a smart woman who spoke several Earth languages and had learned the basic Zephyrian language from their transmissions. "Put them on screen," Jake said. A tall blue crystal being appeared on their screen. This was their first look at a real Zephyrian. The alien was beautiful in a cold way, like a living statue made of precious stone. "Human ship, you will dock at port 712. You will wait there for processing. Do not leave your ship without permission," the Zephyrian said in a voice that sounded like wind chimes. "Thank you," Jake replied. "We look forward to meeting your people and learning about the galaxy." The Zephyrian looked confused. "You look forward to it? That is ... unusual. Most new species are afraid during first contact. We are excited, not afraid," Jake said with a smile. "This is the greatest day in human history." After they docked, a group of Zephyrian officials came aboard their ship. The leader was a female named Veltara. She was even taller than the others and wore robes that seemed to be made of light itself. "I am here to classify your species," Veltara said. "This will determine your place in galactic society. First, describe your home world." Jake began to tell her about Earth. He talked about the blue oceans, the green forests, and the beautiful mountains. But as he described the weather and the animals, Veltara's expression changed from boredom to shock. "Wait," she interrupted. "You said your planet has storms that can level cities?" "Yes, we call them hurricanes and tornadoes," Jake said. "They can be dangerous, but we have learned to predict them and build stronger houses." "And you mentioned creatures called sharks and bears?" "Oh, yes. Earth has many predators, but they are just part of nature. We have learned to live with them." Veltara looked at her datapad, then back at Jake. "Your star produces radiation that can kill living tissue?" "Well, yes, but we just use protective clothing and limit our exposure. Some humans even enjoy lying in the sun for short periods." By now, Veltara was staring at Jake like he was insane. "And your planet's surface moves and shakes regularly?" "Earthquakes, yes. And volcanoes, too." They can be destructive, but they also create new land and fertile soil. Some of our most beautiful places are near volcanoes. Daltara made several notes on her pad. I must consult with the High Council. Your world is classified as Class X, the most dangerous category we have. No intelligent species has ever evolved on such a world before. Really? Jake asked. It does not seem that dangerous to us. I mean, yes, you have to be careful and smart about how you live, but that is true anywhere, right? 3 days later, the High Council made their decision. Commander Lisa Park led a team of 20 humans to the planet Pristine for formal diplomatic talks. The humans were all experts in different fields: scientists, engineers, doctors, and teachers. When they arrived at the capital city, they were amazed by its beauty. Every building was perfect, every street was clean, and every garden was arranged like a work of art, but something felt strange about it. Everything was too safe, too predictable. The humans were taken to a meeting hall where hundreds of different species were gathered. Near the front sat the beautiful Harmony people in their flowing robes. Behind them were various species from moderately dangerous worlds. At the back were the big, scary-looking Skarn warriors. Humans will be seated in the last row, announced as a Furian official. Your status is below all other species due to your Class X world origin. Dr. Amy Chun, a medical officer with short black hair and quick hands, whispered to Lisa. They think we are savages because our world is dangerous. Let them think that for now, Lisa whispered back. We will show them what humans can really do. The next day, the humans were assigned jobs. They were given the worst tasks: cleaning sewers, collecting garbage, and doing heavy labor that no other species wanted to do. The other species looked at them with pity or disgust, thinking they were too stupid for better work. But the humans did not complain. They did their jobs well and began to notice problems that others had missed. Ben Turner, a maintenance worker with strong arms and a sharp mind, was assigned to fix broken machines in the city's power plant. The Harmony engineer who supervised him was named Lith Ara. She was tall and graceful with pale green skin and large, kind eyes. She had been trying to fix the same machine for weeks without success. This machine has been broken for months, she told Ben. We have tried everything, but it will not work properly. We may need to replace it entirely. Ben looked at the machine carefully. He had grown up fixing things on Earth, where nothing worked perfectly and everything eventually broke down. On Earth, humans had learned to fix problems quickly because they could not afford to replace everything that stopped working. Can I try something? Ben asked. Lithara looked surprised. You want to try? But you are from a Class X world. Your people cannot possibly understand our advanced technology. Maybe not, Ben said with a smile. But I understand machines that do not work. He opened the machine and looked inside. The problem was not complicated. The cooling system was clogged with dust, and several connections had come loose from vibration. On Earth, machines faced much worse problems from earthquakes, storms, and extreme temperatures. This was easy to fix. Within an hour, Ben had the machine running better than it had in years. Lithara stared at him in amazement. How did you do? That so quickly? She asked. On Earth, everything breaks down regularly, Ben explained. We have learned to fix things fast and make them stronger. Your machine is actually very well built. It just needed some basic maintenance. Word of Ben's. Success spread quickly. Soon, other humans were solving problems that had puzzled the galaxy's best minds for years. Rick Davis, a construction foreman, increased building efficiency by using techniques developed for Earth's harsh weather. Kate Williams, a scientist, began making discoveries about bacteria that could survive in extreme conditions. The other species watched in growing amazement. These humans, who were supposed to be the lowest form of galactic life, were solving problems everywhere they went. They worked harder, faster, and smarter than anyone expected, but not everyone was happy about this. The Skarn warriors, who had always been the toughest species in the galaxy, began to feel threatened. Their leader, a massive warrior named Thokmer, decided to test the humans. "I challenge the strongest human to combat," he announced in the main square. "Let us see if these Deathworld creatures can really fight." Dan Miller, a security officer with calm eyes and quick reflexes, stepped forward. He was not the biggest human, but he had trained in many Earth fighting styles. On Earth, humans had learned to fight not just other humans, but the dangerous world itself. The fight was over in seconds. Dan used moves that Thokmer had never seen before, techniques developed from Earth's martial arts that had been refined through centuries of conflict and survival. The great Skarn warrior found himself on the ground, defeated by someone half his size. As Dan helped Thokmer to his feet, the Skarn warrior looked at him with new respect. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "On Earth," Dan said simply. "When your whole world is trying to kill you, you learn to fight back." At night, species from across the galaxy began to whisper about the humans. These were not the savage barbarians they had expected. These were survivors, innovators, and problem solvers. They came from the worst world imaginable, but instead of making them weak, it had made them incredibly strong. Admiral Kethvar received reports of human activities with growing concern. The humans were not following the established order. They were supposed to be at the bottom of society, but they were rising fast. Something was very wrong with the classification system. For the first time in 3,000 years, the perfect order of the galaxy was beginning to crack. And it was all because of a species from a world so terrible that it should have killed them long before they became intelligent. But instead of killing them, that terrible world had forged them into something the galaxy had never seen before. True survivors who could thrive anywhere and solve any problem. The humans were no longer just cleaning sewers and collecting garbage. They were changing everything they touched. And soon, they would change the galaxy itself. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his massive ship and looked out at the stars. For 3,000 years, his people had ruled the galaxy. The Zephyrians were tall beings with skin that looked like blue crystal. They were smart, powerful, and everyone in the galaxy obeyed them. Kethvar's home world was called Pristine. It was a perfect planet where nothing bad ever happened. The weather was always nice. There were no storms, no earthquakes, and no dangers. Animals. All the plants were gentle and pretty. The Zephyrians had lived there for millions of years without any real problems. This easy life had made them very good at building things and thinking about science. They had the best ships, the best weapons, and the best computers in the galaxy. But they were also scared of anything that might hurt them or cause trouble. The Zephyrians had created a system to control all the other species in the galaxy. They put each species in a group based on how dangerous their home world was. The safer the planet, the higher the species ranked. The more dangerous the planet, the lower they were placed. At the top were the Harmony people. They came from worlds that were like big gardens. These planets had soft grass, gentle rivers, and animals that never fought. The Harmony people were calm and peaceful. They worked as scientists and government leaders because the Zephyrians trusted them. Below them were species from worlds with small problems. Maybe their planets had some rain or cold winters, but nothing too bad. These species worked as teachers, doctors, and engineers. Near the bottom were the Skarn. They came from worlds with volcanoes and hot rocks everywhere. The Skarn were big, strong, and liked to fight. The Zephyrians used them as soldiers and down guards. The Skarn were happy with this job because they loved battle. At the very bottom were species from the worst worlds. These were planets with terrible storms, poisonous air, or monsters everywhere. Most species from these worlds were considered too wild and stupid to do important work. They did the hardest and dirtiest jobs. This system had worked for thousands of years. Everyone knew their place. The galaxy was peaceful and organized. Admiral Kethfer was proud of what his people had built. On this day, Kethfer was reading reports from scout ships. These ships flew to distant parts of the galaxy, looking for new worlds and new species. Most of the time, they found nothing interesting. Sometimes they found a new species, but it usually fit easily into the existing system. But today was different. A scout ship had found something strange near the edge of the galaxy. There was a star system with several planets, and one of them had life. The computer had tried to classify the planet, but something was wrong. Lieutenant Zexara, a young Zephyrian officer, brought the report to Kethfer. She looked worried as she handed him the data pad. "Sir, you need to see this," she said. "The scout ship found a new species, but the planet classification is impossible." Kethfer looked at the report. The planet was called Earth by its inhabitants. The computer had marked it as Class X, which meant it was the most dangerous type of world possible. But that could not be right. No intelligent life could develop on a Class X world. The report described a world of horrors. The planet had massive storms that could destroy entire cities. The ground shook and split open regularly. Mountains exploded and shot hot rock into the sky. The star that warmed the planet sent out dangerous rays that could kill living things. Were creatures on this world that could tear apart anything they met. Some were as big as buildings and had teeth like swords. Others were tiny but carried deadly poison. The oceans were full of monsters that could eat a whole ship. The weather changed from burning hot to freezing cold. Sometimes water fell from the sky so hard it could knock down trees. Other times, the air itself would spin into giant circles that destroyed everything in their path. "This must be an error," Kethfer said. "The sensors are broken. No one could live on a world like this." But Lieutenant Zexara shook her head. "Sir, the scout ship confirmed it. There are billions of intelligent beings living on this planet. They call themselves humans. And sir, they are not just surviving, they are thriving." Kethfer felt something he had not experienced in many years: confusion. How could any species live on such a terrible world? And how could they become intelligent and build cities? He looked at the images the scout ship had taken. The humans looked similar to several other species in the galaxy. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with 2 eyes. They were not very big or strong-looking. They seemed quite ordinary, but they had built huge cities on their dangerous world. They had machines and ships. They had art and music. They even seemed to enjoy living on their deadly planet. Some of the images showed humans playing games in the water with the monsters. Others showed them climbing the exploding mountains just for fun. "Have they tried to contact us?" Kethfer asked. "Yes, sir. They sent a ship to meet our scout. The human captain wants to talk about joining the galactic community. He seemed very excited about meeting other species." Kethfer studied the report again. According to their classification system, humans should be put at the very bottom of galactic society. They came from the worst possible world, but something about this felt wrong. These humans had done something that should be impossible. "Send a message to the High Council," Kethfer ordered. "Tell them we have found a new species that does not fit our classification system. We need to decide what to do with them." As Lieutenant Zexara left to send the message, Kethfer looked out at the stars again. For 3,000 years, the Zephyrian system had been perfect. Every species had its place, and everyone knew the rules, but now there were humans. And somehow, Kethfer had the feeling that everything was about to change. He did not know how. Right he was. The humans were coming, and they would turn the galaxy upside down. The species that had ruled through fear of danger was about to meet a species that had been forged by danger itself. The age of easy rule was ending. The age of humans was about to begin.